So welcome, folks, to our Masters of Education, Learning Design and Technology webinar here tonight. Thanks for joining us. And just to start off, my name is Eliel Acosta. So I'm an Assistant Director of Admissions here at Johns Hopkins with the School of Education. So just to kind of get starting off here, just kind of some housekeeping items. This session is being recorded and we will share it out with everyone who registered and attended this event here tonight, probably within about 3 to 4 business days. And then also at the very end of the webinar, we will have an opportunity to field questions. So feel free to use the Q&A function on Zoom to enter your questions as we're kind of going through tonight's webinar. But to kind of get started and give folks some context of Johns Hopkins University, there's 9 divisions. We're one university, and this program is specifically housed here at the School of Education. And as we talk about the program, and Dr. Diamond will fill us in, we're really excited about some partnerships that we have with some of the other 9 divisions when it comes to the Masters of Education and Learning Design in Technology. But Johns Hopkins, right, it's an America First research university. We have over 24,000 undergrad and graduate students here enrolled at Johns Hopkins. We have over 36 years, right, of research, more than any other U.S. academic institution. And then we're also very globally focused, right? And we'll talk about how that looks like specifically for the Learning Design and Technology program. And a little bit of breakdown just to kind of give folks here an idea of what the School of Education looks like. You'll see that pie graph that will give you some really good numbers. But just in general, folks, we have students here at the School of Ed from 42 different states, including DC, Puerto Rico, and then as I mentioned before, right, we are a global university, and especially within the School of Ed. So we do have students participating in our graduate and certificate programs from over 58 different countries. 32% are first gen students, so that's always a really good number to see for our graduate programs, and then we're also 30% international. Now, this program here tonight is very much focused on being served as an online program, but we also do have some on-campus programs as well within the School of Education, and you'll see that split on that slide there between 55% online versus 45% campus-based. In total enrollment, right, to kind of give you all an idea of the size of the School of Education, we're just over 1,000 students for our graduate programs. We have, over 10 master's degree programs, 2 doctoral, and 2 graduate certificate programs as well. We have 109 full-time faculty, and Dr. Diamond is here with us tonight. Right, and we typically award, a little bit over 500 degrees annually. So that's a little bit about the School of Education. We are currently in the process of moving back to our new renovated space at Homewood. So for those of you who are local, right, in the spring, if you want to come and check out that building, just reach out to the admissions office. We are planning on having some tours and sessions in the physical space. But as I mentioned before, for this program specifically, it is going to be served as an online program. So tonight we have Dr. Diamond here joining us. So he is the program lead and faculty member for Learning Design and Technology. I will let Dr. Diamond introduce himself, and then he'll go into some of the presentation.
Okay, thank you, Eliel. Good evening, everyone. I'm very happy to be here with you. My name is Jim Diamond, as Eliel says. I am the program director for the school's new Learning Design and Technology program. One thing you should know about us is that this is our very first year relaunching our new program in Learning Design and Technology. The School of Education for many years had a predecessor program called Digital Age Learning and Educational Technology, which focused primarily on K-12 classroom technology integration. We took the program offline, and we've now relaunched into a much, much broader space. As you know, there are not many realms, not many areas of life now in which education is not somehow touched by digital technologies. and either touched or perhaps even completely based in digital technologies at this point. So this is a remarkable time. My sense is that you would know this, a remarkable time to be thinking about joining the field of learning design and technology, which comes under many names: instructional systems design, um, learning experience design, learning design, educational communication and technology, and so on. So this is a very, very broad field that is rapidly expanding. And of course, now, especially with the advent of generative artificial intelligence, and I'll talk a little bit more about that in some time, but that is very important for us because this program is launching with the advent of this new technology. So we are very much informed and thinking about the role of this technology in different sectors, across age bands, across industries, really across almost every area of life now. This technology, for better and worse, is informing what we're doing in the education space. And you'll have opportunities to be thinking about that when you join us. So I'll talk a little bit more about the program, but just a little bit more about me. So I am the program director. This is my 7th year as a member of the faculty in the Johns Hopkins School of Education. Previously, I worked for a large nonprofit research and development organization called the Education Development Center, where I spent the bulk of my career researching and evaluating, and in some cases, developing educational technologies, specifically for the purposes of K-12 classroom education. And very specifically, most of my work for most of my career was in the area of game-based learning, digital game-based learning, until relatively recently with the advent of generative AI. And like many others, I am excited and sometimes perplexed and sometimes nervous, but overall extremely intrigued by this technology and hope to do research as time goes on and as we continue to grow this program. We can move on from here, please, Eliel. So the Learning Design Technology program, and as you will see, will comprise by fall 2026 3 areas of specialization. So learning experience design, AI leadership and education, and learning engineering. And I'll talk a little bit more about each of those in depth. But the reason that I raise that now is because this is a program that is not a one-size-fits-all learning design technology program. We offer specializations depending on your area of interest, depending on where you are currently in your professional life or where you might be thinking about going over time. And so it's a 10-course master's degree program that gives you a very strong foundation in the learning sciences, and we'll talk more about that in a minute or two. And that also gives you a very strong foundation in critical approaches to the use of technologies, right? So you'll be developing hard and soft skills in this broad field of learning design and technology. And those skills and those competencies will include you thinking very deeply about critical approaches and asking questions like who benefits, who doesn't, and why that is. And how can we be thinking about accessibility, inclusivity, and equity when we consider the design, development, implementation, and evaluation of these technologies from the beginning. So you will go through this program and leave the program with a full set of tools at your disposal, not only to develop high quality technologies or technology-supported learning environments, but you will also leave with a toolkit that enables you to really ask very, very, very important questions about how and why we use these tools. There's a strong focus on practical skill development, as the slide says. So there is a clear strand of project-based learning and problem-based learning that goes throughout the entire program. The program is online, but that does not stop you from engaging in hands-on technology-related experiences. You will analyze technologies, you will critique technologies, you will ideate technologies, and in some cases, you may even go so far as to prototype and pilot learning technologies. So there's a very strong focus on moving from theory to practice. We want to translate your understanding of the learning sciences, your understanding of these concepts related to critical studies and technologies right into practice, such that in your current professional life or your future professional life, you're putting all of your learning here right into what you're doing in your professional life. The field in general and this program in particular draw people from many, many different areas. So we currently have students who are in the K-12 space. We currently have students who work as instructional designers and technologists, as multimedia developers. This is a very, very broad field and tends to attract people from many, many different areas. And I'll talk more about that in a little bit. So for program requirements, this is a 10 course, as Eliel's mentioned, online master's degree program. You have 2 foundation courses, which you'll take in your first 2 terms of the program. Learning Sciences Studio, which is obviously our foundation course related to the learning sciences, which really underpins everything that you'll be doing in the program. And then the second foundation course is Critical Perspectives on Technology, as I've been talking about, which you'll take in your second semester in the program, where you'll step back and you'll start applying critical lenses from different perspectives and different areas, different fields when thinking about these technologies. You'll also take 2 research methods courses. So the first is Introduction to Social Science Research, which will provide you with foundational research literacy and begin to introduce you to things like measurement, to data analysis, to formulating researchable questions, to formulating good research questions, good evaluation questions, and then beginning to think about how you can collect data, how you can analyze data, such that you have something meaningful to say about the particular technologies on which you're focusing, or the particular technology-supported environments on which you're focused. The second research methods course is Program Evaluation, which will give you an even more systematic toolkit for going about asking evaluation questions, understanding who the stakeholders are in an evaluation, understanding the differences between research and evaluation, and how differences in approaches between those things mean an awful lot depending on the work that you're doing, okay? So you'll take, depending on whether you're full-time or part-time, you'll take the program evaluation course in your second or third semester. So 2 foundation courses, 2 research methods courses, and then you have your specialization courses. And as I mentioned, there are 3 specializations here. The first that we just launched with this fall, which is Learning Experience Design. The other 2 that will come online in fall 2026, which are AI Leadership into Education and Learning Analytics, or what we are calling Learning Engineering, and which will probably ultimately be the name of the specialization. So here you can see the 3 courses listed below for each specialization. I won't go through each of them in detail. You can find descriptions of those courses on the program website, and you can always contact us to get more detail on the course descriptions and the content about which you'll be learning in these courses, what the methods are, what types of projects and activities you might have. So you can always always contact us for information on those courses. You'll have 2 electives, either within this program, within other programs in the School of Education, provided they're open to students who are not enrolled in their program, and from any other division within Johns Hopkins University, provided they are open to students who are not in that division. And of course, in your case, most likely provided that they are online. You will find a universe of courses available to you at the university and that are available online. You will work with your academic advisor to determine what those electives are. So you will do some thinking about how those courses help you meet your personal and professional learning objectives, but also how those elective courses are helping to meet program learning objectives. And then finally, you'll have a capstone course in this program. So master's degree programs typically have a capstone culminating experience. Sometimes they have a thesis that comes at the end. We do not yet have a thesis option, but will. And to make a distinction between these two things, a capstone course typically results in a project that is addressing some problem of practice in a professional space. A thesis typically relates to research or conceptualization. So original intellectual contributions, asking research questions, doing literature reviews, collecting data, analyzing that data, and then writing on your findings. Often students who are thinking about going on to do doctoral work, either in PhD programs or EDD programs, will consider a thesis option because sometimes doctoral programs will look to see if master's degree students have these kinds of extended writing pieces that you see with a thesis. Okay, we can go on to the next slide, Eliel, please. So this is a typical, this is an example of an academic program plan. So you can see students go through part-time and full-time. Most of our students are part-time and are taking 2 courses a semester. And we typically expect those students to finish, to complete their degrees in about 2 years. Students can go full-time, and that's 3 courses a semester. And this gives you an idea of what that would look like. So you can see everyone comes to the online orientation right before the program. In the fall, you begin with the first foundation course, Learning Sciences Studio. Research 1 here refers to Introduction to Social Science Research. And then you would have an elective course if you were full-time. You would take the same foundation and research methods course in your first semester if you were a part-time student, and so on. As you can see, your first elective option, should you go full-time, would become available to you in your first semester. But if you're a part-time student, your first elective option would become open to you in the summer. And the reason that I raise that now is because the program also has an internship path. So you can take up to 6 credits of an internship and do that online and apply that to your electives, okay? But you won't be able to do that as a part-time student until you're a little further down the road in your program. Okay, if we can go on from here. So as I mentioned, learning design and technology is really not the future of education. It's really the now of education. And the work that people who come through programs such as this one, people who become instructional designers, learning experience designers, learning analysts, instructional coordinators, multimedia producers, entrepreneurs, all of these are in some way related to this field of learning design and technology. And the broad area is growing and is projected to continue to grow through the beginning of the next decade at least. And you can see some of the other job titles associated with this area. So data visualization analyst, product manager, digital learning designer, user experience designer. And that list really goes on. There are many, many different career pathways within this broad field of learning design and technology. And something that is very important about this program is that we have launched through a partnership with 2 different entities. So the first is the Kennedy Krieger Institute, which is an affiliated institution of Johns Hopkins University. And we have worked very, very closely with their instructional design team to create the learning experience design specialization here. So these people, my colleagues Eric, Miriam, and Kevin, will be teaching your specialization courses. So not only are they instructors here, but they are seasoned professionals in the field. Collectively, they have decades of experience among them as scholars and as practitioners. So you'll be working closely with them as you go through your specialization. And there are even internship opportunities at the Kennedy Krieger Institute. So that's one of the partnerships. The other partnership that we have and that we are currently launching with is with the Whiting School of Engineering. So Johns Hopkins University has made a significant investment in the areas of machine learning and artificial intelligence over the past several years, and much of those resources have been housed in the Whiting School. So the School of Education has been partnering with the Whiting School, specifically with several programs in the School of Engineering there, to begin to think about how to integrate coursework specifically in the areas of artificial intelligence and machine learning with coursework in education. So when we launch the AI leadership specialization next fall, those are courses that have been developed through education and engineering together. You would be working with education faculty and engineering faculty, and you would have opportunities not only to be studying alongside students in the School of Education, but also students from the School of Engineering, and in fact, through multiple divisions in the university, as one of the programs with which we're partnering in Whiting is open to students from other programs in the university. And so you have students from the School of Medicine, Nursing, Public Health, and Arts and Sciences taking courses there as well. So you really have opportunities to interact with students from many, many different areas, which really can be a very, very, very mind-opening experience over time. Hopkins is obviously one of the world's renowned research institutions, and you will benefit from that greatly through your interactions with faculty, through your opportunities in internships, and potentially your opportunities to be affiliated with research projects over time. The program is asynchronous, meaning that it is developed with working professionals in mind. Most of our students at any given time are working professionals who cannot necessarily be in a seat at a given time the same day every week. And so the program is developed for asynchronous education, meaning that you go through on your own time through the Canvas learning management system. But with that said, it's not a mastery-based learning program where you are doing everything on your own and going through at your own pace. Courses are set over the course of a semester. You will be proceeding through with a cohort of students, and you'll be working very closely with students in your cohort through projects over time. Students are located all over the world and in multiple time zones, which can be a challenge with collaboration, but students always work it out. And as I said before, there is a very, very, very strong emphasis on the practical application of skills that you develop in this program. We put a great deal of effort and thought into ensuring that there's a close connection between the learning you're doing in our courses and the work either the work that you're doing now or what you're thinking about doing over time. The last word about cohorts is that we have a real emphasis on community building because professional networking is an incredibly important aspect of graduate school, and you having opportunities to meet others and potentially grow your own networks via meeting and working with others is very, very important. And we have a strong emphasis on that here, not only with your peers, but with instructors in the program as well. Okay, next, please. So the program is, as I've said, a good fit for many different professionals because this field draws from so many different professions. People who are focusing on the use of technology. That does not mean that you come in with a background as a programmer or that you come in with a background as a computer scientist. You do not need to come in with any specific set of skills related to technology, but what you need to come in with is a clear interest and passion about understanding how human beings learn with technologies in different contexts at different times. That's what we ask that you come in with, is this goal of thinking very deeply about how to use technologies. So you will develop skills in applying e-learning environments, for example, but you will also develop skills in pedagogy. So thinking about the strategies that are necessary to use these technologies, given the needs of individual learners. So those interested in the learning sciences will find the program very appealing, given that it is the foundation of this program and it infuses everything that we do here. We have students who come through who identify as entrepreneurs, but may not have a background in education, but who have a strong interest in understanding something about the learning sciences and then indeed in developing skills in designing, developing, implementing, and evaluating these technologies. Next, please. So finally, what are we looking for when you apply? So you need to have an undergraduate degree, as this says. Students have many different backgrounds, as I pointed out. So we have people, yes, who have education backgrounds. We have people who have currently backgrounds in physical therapy and occupational therapy. We've had students who come in with backgrounds in legal professions. It really does draw people from many, many different areas. And I actually think that the more diverse the backgrounds are that students that we have come in, the better for all of us, because this field applies to so many other fields. A strong academic record is what we look for. It's a rigorous academic program in a preeminent research university. We have very high expectations about your work, but we also put in place many supports to help you as you go along. So we have high expectations, but we also want to have supports in place to assist you as you go. We're typically looking for at least 3 years of professional experience. That's not a hard rule, but it's a very, very useful rule. And the reason that I say that is because graduate work is very often, I think, enriched when you come in with some consistent set of professional experiences behind you, so that you have those experiences with which to think when you come into your graduate program and you're learning about these concepts and frameworks. You have these experiences to apply them to in your past, and you have them in your current professional space. And then finally, we really look at your essay. What I want to know from your essay is, why are you interested in this program in particular? Not even necessarily why are you interested in the broad field of learning design and technology, because lots of people are interested in the broad field of learning design and technology. But what is it about this program? What is it about this school that draws you? Why do you think it's the right place for you to meet your objectives? Why do you think what you want to do is in alignment with our program learning objectives and the vision that we have for the role of educational technology in the world? So I encourage you to think very strongly about your essay before submitting it. Is that my last slide, Elio?
Yep, I'll take it from here. Thanks, Dr. Diamond. So I'm going to go ahead and transition and talk about the admissions application requirements. And Dr. Diamond already kind of touched on pieces of those. But on the screen that you see here, right, you'll see on the left side, I believe it should be on your end, what we require from all applicants in order to be considered complete and ready for review. So we need an online application, and you can apply directly through the School of Education's website. There is an $80 application fee as well. We do ask you to upload a resume or a CV. And then, as Dr. Diamond said, there is an essay/personal statement that we would like you to address. And then there's 2 letters of recommendation. You're going to have to use your best judgment in terms of, who you decide to ask, right? They have to be either professionally or academic based. So take your time with those letters of recommendation. And then we also require all official transcripts from all post-secondary institutions that you've attended. We do have a good number of international students who attend this program. So I imagine that maybe tonight we do have some folks who are abroad. If that is the case, right, either if you're considered as an international student or if you have education outside of the US, then there are some pieces that we may need in order to assess your application. So the first and foremost would be, right, proof of English language proficiency. So you can either submit a passing IELTS or TOEFL score. I believe IELTS is a minimum band of 7 and TOEFL is 100. You can find those on our website, and I'll send those out to everyone who attended here. We also, I think this is exciting, and in terms of just giving folks more opportunities to show that requirement is now we're also taking Duolingo. And again, I can send out those requirements on our website, or if you visit our admissions website under international student application requirements, you will see those exact scores that we do require. We do take waivers in terms of proving English language proficiency. Typically, right, in terms of general guidelines, you have to at least have had 2 years of academic work in an institution that is taught in English based, right, language. So if you want to apply for that application fee waiver, right, and you believe you can make that argument, there is a space on the application to request that. And then additionally, we do also require a course by course evaluation of your academic credential work. So typically through one of the approved agencies, agencies such as WES, ECE, Spantran, which now I believe has a different name. There are about 4 or 5 agencies that we do take a course by course evaluation from. So again, if you are an international student or have completed work outside of the US, you want to start that process early. I know some agencies such as WES can take anything between 3 to 4 months to complete an evaluation. So we'll talk about the timeline, but as always, you just make sure that you start that process early. So kind of moving from there, just a general timeline, right? The application is live for this program. Deadline, right? We are looking at July 15th. So you do have some time, right? You have time to explore our website, right? Revisit this webinar as soon as we send it out. We'll have other events coming in the fall and the spring. Really get to know the program as you are applying and filling out your application. As always, as an admissions professional, right, I wouldn't encourage you all to wait until the spring or the summer to submit a complete application. Uh, Ideally for me, right, if you feel confident, if you feel comfortable, this is the best that you're going to be able to do in terms of your essay, your letters of recommendation, your resume, I would encourage you to submit it, sometime in the fall, early winter. That gives us time, right, in the spring, if we do need to correct anything on your application, that we can do those corrections in a timely manner. So again, that deadline's there, but for all of you who are attended here tonight, if you do feel like this is going to be a really good fit, I would start working on your application. And again, we're here to kind of help in any way that we can to see if this is a good fit for you. Classes will start on around mid-August of 2026. And as Dr. Diamond kind of mentioned earlier, typically the week before your classes start, we do have a online orientation for students to attend. So moving on from there, this slide here, right, I do want to kind of make a small kind of like earmark, right? Because as you can kind of see, this is tuition and fees based on this academic year of 2025 to 2026. So use this as a reference, but know that, at times, graduate schools, including schools like Hopkins, may raise the tuition price, typically just by a few percentage points. But once we have those assessments and those numbers, they'll be public in our website. But this is just a good point of reference for you all to kind of have an understanding of the cost of the program. So generally, a program like this, you're looking at $1,140 per credit. So this is a 30 credit program. there is an additional $20 per credit tech fee, right? So if you are doing the math calculation, right, you want to add that $20 per credit to give you an idea of what a 3 credit course would look like. So again, feel free to take a screenshot of this. It's also on our website. But it's just generally, right, if you are coming part-time, as Dr. Diamond mentioned, that most of our students do complete this program as part-time students, you're looking around $14,000 to $15,000 for the total cost in terms of tuition and fees. For full-time students, right, you're looking there for 9 credits per term. You're looking around that $21,000 for a total cost. Also, just be aware that there is a $175 registration fee per semester. So every time that you go in to register for courses, you will have to pay that registration fee. So when it comes to funding this degree, right, you want to think of various buckets, right? So federal aid, loans, work study is one bucket. We do encourage students to submit the FAFSA as you're applying to the program. The other bucket potentially could be state and federal through grants and scholarships, and then also college and universities in terms of our own endowed scholarship opportunities that we could potentially have. The other piece I do want to share, just because based on experience for this program, since it tends to attract, I would say, working professionals, is that you always want to check with your employer for any type of employer tuition reimbursement that you may be eligible for in terms of pursuing or advancing your education. And then obviously there's also private resources, private loans, and outside scholarships. But when it comes to our own grants and scholarships here at the School of Education, we do have SOE endowed scholarships that students may be eligible for. It is a separate application that you will have to complete. It's limited number, partial need based, right? As I mentioned before, it's critical that you complete that FAFSA, and it's going to be based on that financial need level. There are also potential external funding opportunities on our website, such as teacher.org, scholarship.org, that we would encourage you all to explore as you start planning for, for your master's degree program. But I think one of the big pieces, right, for us in terms of the enrollment team, in terms of the admissions team, is recently we've been able to put together a really good financial aid team. So on this slide is our director, Nettie Matz, who brings a lot of great experience in just helping individuals kind of understand on how to fund their education. And then we also have Jennifer, I should say, Fordham, who's the financial aid specialist. Both of them offer appointments, one-on-one appointments throughout the week to help you, right, understand the cost of this program and how to fund this and make this a reality, hopefully if you do get an offer of admission. It's critical from my perspective, right, to start planning early. Nettie and Jenny can be busy throughout the fall, but I would encourage everyone, right, if you get an opportunity, maybe make an appointment with either of them early here in the fall so you get a deep understanding on what the cost implications would be, right? When you should submit your FAFSA, if you need support in filling out the FAFSA, right? Understanding that, again, this program is tailored more towards working professionals. So it could be a few years or more since the last time you did your FAFSA. And a lot has changed, I would say, in the last 3 to 5 years. But just know that we're here as a resource to support you in kind of understanding those pieces, so you are ready to start, with confidence in the fall, right? Hopefully not worrying about, the cost and how to afford or pay. So we're going to go ahead and transition to our Q&A here. So this is your opportunity, right? This is the opportunity to ask Dr. Diamond or myself any questions that you may have about the program. So go ahead. We'll be here, for a few minutes, depending on the volume of questions that we get. And as we wait, I guess just to kind of start it off here, so I'll pose a question here. Dr. Diamond, one of the questions I get often when I meet with prospective students who may not have 3 years of working professional experience, right? Maybe they're in their undergrad, their last year, or maybe they're coming off 1 year as an undergrad, right? And sometimes they lack that confidence of applying to a program like this. Is there anything that you would advise them to do to make themselves competitive in terms of internships or just volunteering experiences as they get ready to apply?
So it's a good question. Thank you. So as I say, it's not a hard and fast rule, yeah, that students have a minimum of 3 years of professional experience. But with that said, I think it is a good idea for you as prospective graduate students to think about the benefits of having some additional professional experience before you come into graduate school, because it will make a huge difference for the learning that you do. Now, that said, we do have students who come, not often, but we do have students who come straight out of their undergraduate degrees. So students who have had internship opportunities, or students who have had opportunities to volunteer, in some cases in related spaces. Anything that is adjacent to what you'll be studying in this program, so that you have a sense of whether this is what you want to be doing for the next several years and perhaps over the course of your lifetime for a career. And so that you don't go through a graduate program without much professional experience and perhaps realize that this might not be the place for you. This might not be what you thought you were going to be interested in, right? And so, again, that's why having professional experience can be very helpful. I'll also say that we have students who sometimes take courses in other places, and that can be in continuing education spaces, it can be in adult education spaces, it can be in community colleges, it can be in other universities. And those types of experiences can also be very helpful for you in helping you really to clarify your thinking about whether this is what you want to be doing, whether what you're going to be learning about in this particular program is of special interest, is something about which you're passionate. So the more opportunities you have to put yourself into practice or to put yourself into spaces where there are ideas and activities related to the type of work that happens in this graduate program, or indeed any graduate program you are pursuing, the more opportunities you have to do that, the better off you are. Now, Eliel, you asked specifically in terms of strengthening your application. It's not necessarily going to be that I'm going to look at your application and see that you have no professional experience and automatically discard the application, right? These are holistic reviews, right? We look at every part. And as I say, I pay an awful lot of attention to that essay, right? Because the essay is another place where I get insight into your thinking about this field and your thinking about the fit of this program and your thinking about the commitment that you're about to make in terms of time and resources, and how well that fits what you want to be doing and how well what you want to be doing fits the program learning objectives that we offer here. It needs to go both ways, right? We want this to be a good fit. So the last thing that I'll say is, if you fear that you're not meeting some criteria that I ticked off in the webinar, you don't necessarily have to fear that, right? These are holistic reviews. I'm looking across your entire application, okay? And if you still find yourself having fears or anxiety, you can always send me an email and I'm happy to talk it through with you. Did
Thank
I
you,
answer
Dr.
that, Elio?
Diamond.
Okay.
Yep, that was great. So we do have two questions that came in that are very specific to LDT. So I'll let you handle these, but I'll read them off. So we do have someone saying, would you say that game-based learning is generally considered a part of learning analytics, or does it fall more under the umbrella of learning design?
Oh, what a good question. um, So let me, just so I understand the question. So game-based learning, is it generally considered, or maybe do I consider it to fall under the umbrella of learning analytics, or do I consider it to fall under the umbrella of learning experience design? Did I get that right?
Yep.
So frankly, it falls under both, depending on how it's being developed and how it's being used, right? So let's back up for a second, because we may have people who haven't thought a whole lot about game-based learning, but it's a lot what it sounds like, right? Which in our field is the design and development of digital games that have been created expressly for the purpose of helping learners meet particular learning objectives. And so we develop things like rule systems and game mechanics within the game world, such that learners have opportunities to put into practice the intended learning outcomes in game spaces. So one way for us to think about that is through the lens of learning experience design. And indeed, you would have an opportunity in a program like this to take an elective course in gaming and simulations for learning, where you'll learn an awful lot about the theoretical underpinnings of game-based learning, but you'll also learn an awful lot about how those theoretical underpinnings coming out of the learning sciences manifest in practice, manifest in design, in game-based learning spaces. So that would be a learning experience design lens. And I'm happy to, for whoever the questioner is, I would be happy to have a separate conversation to go into more detail. And now the other lens about which you asked is learning analytics. Well, in a digital game space, there's an awful lot of data telemetry. There's an awful lot of data being produced and that are being collected on the back end. So we have all of this data related to gameplay. And in game-based learning, we try to think about the relationship between the activities in the gameplay, and how that gameplay relates to learning objectives. And we do that through the data that we interpret. So we have this back-end data telemetry. We have models of what we think the relationship is between the gameplay and the intended learning outcomes. And then we analyze that data and we try to make some inferences about learning progressions, both in the game space, but then outside of the game space, right? Because ultimately, game-based learning is intended to transfer. We want people to have opportunities to put into practice these skills in the game world, so that they can put those skills into practice in the world outside of the game. And learning analytics is one way that we try to make determinations whether learners are moving toward our targeted goals. The last thing I'll say about this is that this is done more or less systematically, depending on the systems in which you're operating. So we can be in K-12 systems where certain teachers might be using games in the classroom, for example, but they may not be doing anything in terms of learning analytics, right? They may not be prepared to think about gameplay as an indicator of learning. Some teachers may. But on the other hand, we might think about game-based learning scenarios in industry or in the military, where significant investments have been put into the design and development of these games, and significant investments have been put into the collection on the back end of that data and what that means for student learning. I'm happy to answer a follow-up question. I'm not sure if I've answered the question. So if there's a follow-up, I'm happy to answer it.
Thanks, Jim. So I'll monitor to see if there's a follow-up that comes up. But uh, do have another question, right? So this person is looking to focus on learning design and also get into AI. The specialization slide seems that these two are on separate tracks.
Mm.
How would you recommend they attack this or they approach this?
Good question. So correct. These are three separate specializations: learning experience design, AI leadership, and learning engineering or learning analytics. But through your electives, you have opportunities to take courses in the other specializations. So you're not precluded from taking courses in the other specializations. There are likely prerequisites. So if you want to wind up taking one or two courses in the AI leadership specialization, you may very well, and the reason I say may is because we are still finalizing that specialization right now for its fall 2026 launch. So we have not yet baked in the prerequisites. But my guess, well, it's better than a guess. So my strong sense right now is that there will be a series of prerequisites. So if you wanted to take the second AI leadership specialization course, you would need to take the first, unless you can demonstrate competencies that are associated with the first course, such that you can go into the second. Now, you're also not limited to AI related courses in the Whiting School, in the School of Education, which has its own AI and education elective course. There are AI and indeed AI and education related courses in other divisions of the university that you would also have opportunities to take as electives. So just because you declare yourself in one specialization, which you will need to do, you're not precluded from taking courses in the other specializations.
So another question I think is really good, especially as we kicked off our first cohort this fall, right? Is this person, right, as a professional, understands the importance of networking? Can you talk a little bit about how a program that's fully online, asynchronous, right? How can this program support networking, both for local students and non-locals?
So we do it through things like live events, right? We hold live webinars in which we invite students from across the program, from different specializations, from other programs in the school to come together to talk and to meet online, right? So we can do lots of networking in online spaces. You have and will have repeated opportunities to meet with the instructors within each specialization who also work to make their networks accessible and available to you. So you'll have multiple opportunities and events that are sponsored either by the program or the School of Education to talk with others, either in the context of things like academic seminars or professional gatherings in which we're bringing in outside speakers, sometimes specifically in the field or fields in which you're interested, sometimes in fields that you may not have known anything about, but that may turn out to be very beneficial for your thinking about where you're headed in your career. So the school sponsors online events. We have things like the community site in the program, which is a central hub. All of the programs in the School of Education have one, and they are there to serve the purpose of keeping students connected. So learning more about the program, learning more about one another. The program the site has its own equivalent of a Facebook page so that you have the opportunity to see all of the students in the program currently, those who have been here. You can see the professions in which they currently work or have worked. You can see their professional goals. You'll have their contact information, so you can contact one another directly. And then, of course, you will be doing an extensive amount of project-based learning in this program. And what that means is that you will be working with other students. You'll be working collaboratively in different teams of students across multiple courses. And students, in fact, get to know one another very well through these project-based experiences and over time. We've had students who have gone on to graduate and leave and go work together as a result of starting their their work together in this program. So we have a strong emphasis, particularly because it's an online program, particularly because online learning can come with a set of challenges in terms of having opportunities to collaborate, having opportunities to meet others, having opportunities to grow your network. So not only this program, but indeed all programs in the School of Education, a school where a very large percentage of our programs are online asynchronous programs designed specifically for working professionals. We put as much support in place as we can to help you do that very thing, to meet others and to grow your networks.
So one of the other questions that I have here, Jim, is beyond mastering current technologies, what habits of mind or leadership, I should say leadership capacities does Hopkins most seek to instill in graduates, especially those expected to influence the education innovation worldwide?
So vision building is an incredibly important set of competencies that we will help you to develop as you move through your specialization, right? So students who come through this program, we fully expect and we fully hope that you expect to move into leadership positions. And that involves being able to create visions in our field for the role of technology in different learning environments. So you need to develop skills to be able to imagine what might not currently exist, either in terms of current technology or technology that might be coming down the road. And so you need to learn to ideate what these tools will afford, what they make possible, and what they might preclude. You need to learn to think about who they will benefit and who they will not. You need to learn to think about who these technologies might displace in different educational settings in different sectors and how that becomes managed and how that's managed. You need to think about how to manage change within small groups, within large organizations, as we continue to integrate the use of these technologies. So that's one very, very important skill and set of competencies that we are focused on nurturing here. Another is thinking in terms of diversity, equity, and inclusivity, right? So we have a very, very strong focus on the idea that educational technologies need to become available to all to the extent that we can push through existing constraints related to resources. That we need to ideate, design, develop, implement through the lenses of inclusivity, such that we can bring as many learners into our experiences as we can, and that we do that from the beginning. That thinking about things like inclusivity, accessibility, usability are never afterthoughts in the design, development, and implementation of educational technologies. And that this is a skill set from day one that you're beginning to put into practice. That you are deepening your ability to think critically about how these tools are developed, how they're being used, who they're working for, and those for whom they're not. So that's a second skill set. And then a third skill set really is the ability to become something of an imaginary, right? What we want in a program like this is for you to maintain a healthy balance between vision and skepticism, right? We want you to be able to look at a tool and think about its affordances and who it can benefit in educational settings. And we want you to be excited about that. We want you to expand your imagination. And at the same time, we want you to be skeptical. We want you to ask questions. Who does this work for? Who doesn't it? Why is that? How can we design safeguards from the beginning to ensure that our tools are as accessible for as many as possible? So those are three core competencies that we're focused on in this program and that we're looking to nurture in you as future graduates and leaders from your first day in the program.
Thank you, Dr. Diamond. So we are going to have to close the session. We are at our hour, and I just want to be respectful of everyone's time here. But we definitely want to continue this conversation. Keep an eye out for future webinars for the Learning Design and Technology program. You can also reach out to me here in the admissions office if you have questions, whether it's about the application or even the program itself. And I know Dr. Diamond typically is also open to connecting with folks, but I know he's also going to be away potentially for a while. So again, stay connected, folks. Thank you for attending here tonight, and we hope to see you in our future webinars. Thanks.
LAL,
Yep.
super quick. I just saw there's one question here in the Q&A, which is about alumni students. And just so, because we're getting ready to go, whoever asked this question, we're happy to put you in touch with alums. So if you want, please get in touch with me. And I'm happy to put you in touch with alums who I know will do a better job of answering that question than I can. So if that person is still there and needs to be put in touch with an alum, I'm happy to do that.
Great. Thanks, Dr. Diamond.
Okay. Good night.
Good night.